Well, this is an interesting story that caught our attention. Haldeman County Council has voted to get rid of a blockade set up by Native protesters at a flashpoint in Caledonia known as the former Douglas Creek Estate. What could go wrong? Let's ask John Downs and Ryland Doyle, who joins us now to talk about the situation. This is, of course, that big flashpoint where homeowners and natives met and everything went wrong. This is happening back in 2006. Now the council wants to build it as a gathering place for the town and the native community up there by taking down this blockade, which is, you know, a really ugly reminder of what happened. They're hiring an independent contractor. I can't imagine who would want to take that contract, but nonetheless, this could become problematic, no?
Yeah, I think it absolutely could become problematic, and I don't think the wounds are fully healed yet. I think they're still pretty fresh on both sides of the fence, so the idea of having these groups come together in a meeting spot and having a place to congregate, I think that this barricade itself is being watched closely by the First Nations people there. I think that they are waiting for something like this to happen, and the second that something does happen, I would not be shocked if that led to violence, if it led to further protest. So I think they really are poking the bear here. Should it be that way? No. Absolutely not. They should be able to take this down. They should have been able to take this down months ago, years ago, except they haven't because, well, political correctness is what it is.
Well, look, they've asked the OPP, which I find somewhat amusing, to come in and keep the peace. We know, John, how the OPP responded to this the first time. I mean, they completely failed the people of Ontario, but of Caledonia.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you blame the OPP or you blame whoever provided that directive for them to stand down. I think the concern here, look, one of the things that you would do in this process, I think, to try to attempt to quell any possible uprisings is to talk to the natives and let them in on the conversation. I don't know if that's happened here, and if that hasn't happened, that would make them probably a little quicker to agitate. That said, even if you attempt that, it might not be successful. I agree with Ryan. I mean, you know, it's got to come down. It is a reminder of what went on, and you know, and something that's just not going away, really.
Well, it's not, but the province, the reaction to it, the Liberal government decided to buy them off to make the problem all go away. But the problem hasn't gone away. What it's done is it's signaled Natives protesters can do whatever they want, and the town of Caledonia has to basically shut up and deal with it.
Yeah, which leads them to be less likely open to dialogue.
Sure.
You know, if we're talking about the idea
why
of
would they give this up?
Why would they? Because in the past, everything that they fought for, that they decided to stomp their feet over, they got. I mean, they basically were handed every single thing that they wanted by the government, so why would they stop now? So if they see this barricade as something that shouldn't come down, they're not going to budge because they know that the powers that be, it's the same government after all. It's the same Liberal government that had them, we were their walking mats, their doormats basically. It's the same government in power, so they know that they're not going to change. The techniques aren't going to change. So I don't see anything different in the First Nations community.
Yeah, I don't know if this is an issue that the county is trying to look like it's doing something to maybe boost the morale of the town. I know Caledonia well. I spent a lot of time there as a kid. It's not the same town, and I feel like the people have been completely abandoned by the government and by the police force who just let this go on. I don't know.
It's also an election year too, right? I mean, that's got to play into this as well. The fact that people are looking to get popularity back on their side.
Well, look, Kathleen Wynne, she could have a real problem here on her hands.
She could, but she just got elected.
She did, but she's got to deal with this.
Yeah, maybe that's for the best in this sense. And look, you got to look at who's in the right and who's in the wrong. Technically, the town is in the right. They have every right to take this thing down.
Yeah.
So if this becomes kind of like another Oka again, or a repeat of it was in 2006, there's not going to be a hell of a lot of sympathy for the Native protesters.
I don't know, because we've heard Kathleen Wynne, she says all the time, we've got to reach out and talk and work with our First Nations members. And she's talked openly back in 2013. She talks about living, their territory. She refers to it as their land. So is she the kind of leader that would just say, hey, what do you want? How can we make this go away? Would she be the leader to appease them?
I think she is full of appeasement. She's sort of the Neville Chamberlain of Ontario, where she would give and give and give until we're all living on First Nations lands because they just won't stick up to the fact that some of these lands are now ours. To John's point, the barricade itself, we're not talking about the Berlin Wall here. You could bring a tractor and a couple of bulldozers in and have this thing gone by the time this conversation is finished. The fact that we have to walk around with kid gloves when we're in the right tells you a lot about how this government has not reacted, or reacted in a way that the First Nations hold all the cards in this province. It tells you exactly what's gone on here. This barricade should be gone today. Done.
Yeah, but it won't.
It won't be.
Well, we'll know very easily.
Well, sure we will.
If the contractor goes in, starts doing their job, they start getting hassled, the OPP doesn't do anything.
But it does, John.
That's the scenario.
You know, we were all up there in the beginning days of this conflict, and it was scary. I mean, we had a CH camera guy beaten within an inch of his life, within a few feet of OPP officers who did nothing. Nothing. Yeah. And so what contractor in his right mind is going to risk his his safety going in to do this when, it's not going to come down to conversation. It gets ugly really fast there.
Well, I'm sure there will be stipulations that if that person does not have the protections of the OPP or they don't feel comfortable going forward, they won't. But look, we'll be able to watch this play out minute by minute. And social media, even what it is now, I can bet that you will have townspeople down there documenting this themselves, and probably on the other side as well if the natives show up. So there's going to be a lot of scrutiny on the situation.
I would also say that the price tag on this is going to be pretty high. If you're contracting out to somebody in a dangerous situation like this, where they don't know what's next, how much danger is going to be there to their employees, the taxpayer is going to pay a lot of money for it.
Yeah, I just think I think this is an interesting scenario that's unfolding here, because while it's a small headline now of, hey, look what we voted on, the implications in the bigger picture are huge, not just for Caledonia, but it's symbolic for the entire country. When are we going to stand up to this? When are we going to defend?
I don't think we are. I mean, this happens across this country, more so in the province of Ontario, where you've got railway tracks that are being barricaded, we've got mining projects that are interrupted, there's development that is interrupted across this province. You've got judges and police that ignore the laws of the book and ruling. We have a system that is set up to favor the First Nations people in any claim. No matter what the facts say, it seems like the judges and politicians always want to err on that side of things because that's the right thing to do in their minds, and in my mind it isn't.
There's a lot of historical sympathy for the natives and for the claims, and that's not going to go away.
No, it's not. But there'll be a lot less sympathy if someone gets hurt.
Yeah.
Because they're just a tax-paying citizen in this country, and they're just trying to get back to living normally. And for the folks of Caledonia, they just haven't had normal, not for years.
But the thing is, if it's a non-First Nations taxpayer that gets hurt, there won't be as much sympathy if it's somebody from the First Nations community that gets hurt. There's a different balance there. There are more protests. There are more rallies. It doesn't happen so much the other way.
Yeah. All right, we'll leave it there. We'll come back.